couple people have been like, I'm super excited for the media panel, and in a few minutes I might just call on you to ask you why. But I guess there's a lot of questions out there. I thought we'll do some quick introductions, and then I really want to start and lay out the landscape of like what's going on out there. Earlier in the day, we were talking to the woman from Jet Black, and she had mentioned, oh yeah, you could, talk to your bot and like ask, like, I want to buy a magazine rack. And I was like, what's a magazine? Like, what's that? People kind of laughed and then cried a little, and then like laughed a little, and then like mostly cried. Yeah. Mostly me. But it's all changing, and you guys are right at the forefront of things that are working, which is really fun that you're here with different perspectives. So Melissa, I'd love to start on the end. Sure. You have a fancy title, and you could list even the whole thing now.
Oh gosh.
I know. But I guess just a quick 2 seconds about what you do, and then you have some clients, and so if you could mention some of those bold-faced names.
Yeah. Hi. I'm partner and managing director at Jennifer Bett Communications. That's a mouthful, I know. We work with fast-growing, typically venture-backed startups across a lot of different markets. So everything from fashion, beauty, health and wellness, and of course, home and lifestyle. Some of the brands we've worked with that you probably know and have heard from over the last 2 days, Floyd, Parachute, Material. We work with Marie Kondo's KonMari, and I'm sure there are a few others that I'm missing. But that is the 2-second pitch.
It's great. It's great ones. Max?
It's good when a PR person gives their intro. They're really good.
Yeah, no, they're like paid to do it. It's amazing.
Yeah, right.
I'm lovely. I'm Maxwell Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of Apartment Therapy Media. We're 2 sites, apartmenttherapy.com and kitchen.com. Apartment Therapy is our home design site. We teach people how to make their homes beautiful, organized, and healthy. Started in 2004, long time ago for the web. And Kitchen started just a couple years later. It's our home cooking site. I like to say we teach people to cook, which I think we do, and that's what we do all day long. We're located in Soho. I'd say about 2/3 of the company is in Soho. The other third or more is really remote. A lot of our editorial staff on Kitchen and Apartment Therapy are remote. They, especially on Kitchen, we like to say they're not only on staff, they're actually home cooks because they're actually working from home.
Yeah.
And they are. It's the way we started. We started with a completely remote staff. We have more people in New York now than we used to. But it works for us, and everybody likes it. Everybody likes to work remotely, so we keep going in that way. And
so how many people about right now, Max?
we're just over 100.
Cool.
And yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Tracy.
Hi, I'm Tracy. I'm the GM of Domino. We are a home decor media brand that has a quarterly print publication as well as a site, and we do experiential as well.
Cool. How long have you been at Domino?
I've been there for 3 years, and I also was part of the consumer marketing team when it was owned by Condé Nast in its first iteration.
Got it. I was wondering, what 0.0 Domino are we? It's like
We are at...
we stopped counting around these years. Yeah.
We're officially at 3.0.
Okay, that's not so bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. But you've seen 2 and 3.0.
Yes.
Excellent. And about how big does your team number now?
We're currently at about 30 people.
Cool.
And quickly growing.
And Melissa, you and Jenny and the team, how big is that operation?
So we're
Small, I might say.
25 in New York, and we are 5 in LA.
Legit.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Go girls. I love it. Okay, so Tracy and Maxwell, you both on the phone laid out a very rapid fire, this is how it is today for me. To the point where, I was furiously taking notes. I know some of where media left off, but from the digital side, which isn't even worth calling a digital side anymore. Like I would say, let's start there. This is where we are. And the aberration is a print magazine at this point, and media is being rendered socially, and in digital and in other forms, podcasts, and these are the things that we talk about. And when people are sharing information, I notice where it comes from. How did you read that? Where did it come from? And lately I hear a lot about podcasts and where people are hearing stories, and then a little bit like I'll send it to you or I'll text you the link, right? But it's very rarely, sometimes mentioning the print book, and yet there's different points for each. So talking from the lens of digital, or just more like where we're at, Tracy, I'm going to let you start and say specifically for where maybe Domino was when you entered, some things worth trying in terms of getting revenue in, growing the brand, making it thrive, and where you've landed. Just like a quick little lay of the land.
Yeah. I think one of the things that rings true from a lot of the panels that were had today was that you really need to know your audience, and you really need to be willing to take a risk that's outside of what the trends of the market is doing. And I think that's really what Domino has stayed true to. When it was first produced by Condé Nast magazine, it was also a disruptor in the fact that it was trying to be something new, which was incorporating personal style from a design perspective, as well as the shoppability of it, which was not something typical of what most magazine publishers were doing at that time. Right. Sadly, it did, close. But when it was relaunched, it was relaunched by co-founders who really wanted to embrace what content and commerce means, and relaunched it as a dropship e-commerce model, along with a print magazine and digital site. I think now we're at the third evolution of it, and what we've seen is, rather than trying to make any one part of the business work and operate independently, is what is the thing that threads through all of our channels? And it's really our consumer. It's really about the research and the data that we're accruing from each of these channels that help support us to build a really a big media brand that amplifies everybody and all of our partners. And one of the other things is to maybe not chase the metrics that everybody else is chasing. For instance, like becoming a huge digital site is not something that we are endeavoring to do. We really believe that a holistic interior design home experience in a woman's, at the point at which you're making decisions about your home, it's something that comes through all of these mediums. Yep. You want to have somebody who can access you on domino.com, but we also believe there is an audience that wants to see this inside a print magazine. Mm-hmm. We produce quarterly, so we're no longer every month, but we think that there's something very enriching about storytelling through the print medium and seeing the lives of people's homes.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Picked it up in the airport, go figure. Mm-hmm. Canada is so chill, you have time to read in the airport. It's super bizarre. And it looks really fresh. I was so excited by so many of the layouts and the playfulness that was there. It wasn't what I expected. I'll say I was really surprised. And I've only taken a couple issues off, but yeah, I really liked what I saw.
That's really our editorial team, led by Jessica.
I know, I wasn't giving you credit. No, that's crazy. But you should be excited to work on it in that way. Like, it's
Absolutely.
Really cool.
And it's really leaning on their expertise. I mean, a lot of times we're talking about using third-party research consultants to figure out what's happening in this industry. I think the best, industry N1s are our editors. You know this. Yeah. Like, as you were talking, you do an incredible amount of research to figure out what are the companies that are really doing something different in this marketplace. Yeah. What are the small details that we're forgetting when we're just thinking about mass consumption and mass furniture? Is the editors are the ones that see, but did you notice that, roof, the ceiling in the room, rather than the walls that we're all paying attention to?
When Anna Brockway presented trends, she floated them by me, and I thought, okay, but the people in the room are making those trends. And she was like, yes, but now we see what sticks in terms of a consumer. So it is worthwhile, but I would look at the pictures and I'm like, some of those designers are going to be in the audience. And so, but it is interesting. And I also think about a moment when I got to House Beautiful, and Newell Turner, who was editor-in-chief at the time before I was telling me about the era that they would test covers, and they would bring in, readers when there was budget to do a lot of reader research, to sit in a conference room and talk about how to arrange flowers on the cover, what flowers they would buy on a cover of a magazine. I mean, this feels really old now, but it was, it's inside the decade that was a kind of practice thinking about it. And instead, we just come off as somebody where you have like real-time DM coverage of what is working, what you're buying, what is not. And it's just a matter of like sifting through a lot of that information. Maxwell, you do a really good job at it. I want you to go a little slow. When you talk about some of the media groups, you got to mention the properties for me too. So you were kind of telling me about how the biggest players in digital media were attacking revenue growth, what they were doing. This one's doing video, this one's doing. Can I plant you right there and talk to the tell our friends
Well,
out there.
I'll back up and say, I've been to a lot of conferences particularly where in interior design, where people want, particularly small retailers, want people like myself to tell them where to go to find the audience, or even to be on apartment therapy. And the challenge with that is, and is even more so now, is that as opposed to 10 years ago, when we could publish something to the front page and everybody saw it, and we were like the cool kids on the block. When you run with wolves, eventually you run with more wolves. And we are now running with many wolves. So so our audience used to be all on the website, apartmenttherapy.com or kitchen.com. Then when social media came along, it started to splinter off onto Facebook and certainly now Instagram and Reddit and on all these other places. And then when video came along, it splintered off onto YouTube and all of those providers. And what you find is that the audience is so fractured and fragmented and so all over the place that we as a company that really came up as a what they call an owned and operated website, we're like dinosaurs. And we have had to really grow a lot and morph and change and learn in order to really have many irons in the fire. And we're a little bit, because we're a little bit old-fashioned or have been doing this for a long time, I'm a little bit of sort of let's do a little bit of everything and go slowly and see what sticks. A lot of our colleagues have, arguably they've had more money or more investment to sort of make leaps ahead, and many of them have really doubled down on one of a number of addressing audiences in very specific places. They are not trying to address audiences in multiple spaces. And I think what you're asking is, what do I think those spaces are? So you've got your sites that are sort of, and a lot of this is driven by audience, it's also driven by advertising. The way I see it, you've got your sites that are really trying to be premier brands. They're trying to have a perspective, they're trying to have a point of view, they're trying to be, in a sense, sort of a new age version of a magazine.
Yeah, I would say the closest to having a brand headstrong vision, right? So you mentioned Refinery 29 would be one of those.
You get Bustle, you get Vice, for example, very strong opinion, whether you like it or not. They certainly want to be heard, and they want to have even a political opinion. And so those sites are really gunning against one another to get above the static and be heard and seen. And they're trying to grow audience around their voice and their perspective. In particular, very millennial, very much courting this new generation. Then you cut to a different group who are not doing this at all. These are the ones who are really playing for honestly, where is everybody? They're all on Google. They're all on search. They are all coming to websites because they're looking for something, particularly in design.
So like this is SEO. This is an SEO strategy. Strategy number 2 is an SEO strategy.
Back in the day, there was a bunch of sites, about.com, Ask Jeeves, and all that, and they all cratered. They're coming back. And now they're called different things. There's and by the way, there's tremendous respect because these people are clobbering it. There's a site called Spruce, you're probably familiar with this, which is the old Demand Media company reconstituted. There's, missed that up. No, that's about.com. About.com has been reconstituted. Demand Media reconstituted as Hunker is their design site, and then they have a whole bunch of other sites. And they are very efficient, very operating savvy. You're not going to hear them getting involved in politics. They do not have cover stories. They are not doing big features on some controversial person or home. They are just clobbering all of the search terms that you are looking for. Like,
I find this important to mention to this audience because when your client or the people shopping your brand or showroom is looking for something, these are the folks that are answering that question. I was searching, affordable countertop surfaces for my actual life, not sponsored by an advertiser. And the Spruce is something that would come up, and it's like, here are the 10 most affordable countertops, and it's there's no interviews, there's no editors, there's not even really an advertising drive there. What they're betting is that they have done the best, search engine optimization to get me to that page, and then they can sell advertising off it, they can sell audience, they can do whatever from there. But it's important to see that when people are sifting around for information. It's not AD that's showing up. It's this kind of thing.
No, and it's service driven, and in
Yep.
our field, that's a big deal. Then you've got the people who are heavy into video. They really went, and so they're not even on a website. They're on YouTube and they're on Facebook. They don't even have a website, so to speak. They're really off platform.
So who's that?
That's it's called Group 9 now. It's Thrill. It's
You
the
don't even know who
Thrillist.
they are. They're just,
Thrill-
but there's a lot of YouTube videos, and that's, yeah. And
Well,
that's,
these are companies that are really big presences. They have a Thrillist, they have the Dodo, they have Now This, which is a news site, and they have millions and millions of views. And while I'm not a customer of that, if you turn on if you're looking at Facebook, you might pop up. You're probably going to see them. These are all companies. They're figuring out how to get in front of audience and find out where they are, and they're being very effective. And they're all finding their own place. And the other thing that's become a bigger deal now is just affiliate commerce. Commerce is not just a service, but it's also a revenue stream. And if you can do a really good job and you can provide a real strong service there, that's a whole other thing. And as Tracy said, you don't have to be ginormous to do a good job. In fact, if you want to be curated, you don't want to be ginormous.
Yeah.
And Food 52, really getting much closer to retail than publishing, I think.
Yep.
So I see the playing field. 10 years ago, everyone was what we call a publisher website.
Yep.
Now, they come in many different stripes, and and by the way, no one's safe. There's no silver bullet here. We are all figuring this out in real time, and in the background, you've got Google changing the algorithms every 3 months. I shouldn't even tell you this. We lost
Now I really want to know.
30% of our traffic in March in 14 days. It was a heart stopper.
What happened?
I don't know.
But
Google
an
Google
algorithm
stopped.
changed.
Google changed their
And it
algorithm.
fell
They do
off.
it every three
Yeah.
months, and sometimes you go up and sometimes you go down. And this one really clobbered us. It clobbered a lot of people in the publishing, and in our world. And we have clawed back from that. But when you realize that you're not totally in control of your audience all the time,
Yep.
you seek safety, and so you diversify and you go out and you do all the things you can do to make sure that if one thing drops, the others float.
Melissa, I'm going to kick it to you for a second because it strikes me as that when you're talking to clients, they have a new product or a new collection that's hitting the scene. It used to be that probably on your, 2 hands and 1 foot, you could list the media outlets that you wanted to place that product in, right? And it was like, this is our first choice, this is our second choice, these are the top 3 or whatever, and it would go on from that. That list of names that I bet people in the audience aren't even sure that they know is now enormous. How do you work with a client to talk about what counts, how to make an impact? Because at the end of the day, there's brand awareness, there's sales, there's different objectives.
For sure. I mean, brands today are at a huge advantage because the media landscape is so wide.
Got it.
So it's important for founders to not have that narrow view of here are the 10 outlets that I've always thought I need to be in to grow this brand. So the first thing is being open to that diversity, because as you guys were saying, consumers are everywhere. They have so many different options that your PR plan and your comm strategy should appeal to every single one of those mediums, and you should be repackaging your story in a way that you can place and replace those stories across print, online, social media takeovers, Facebook Live, podcasts, literally you name it, YouTube. There really should be no limit to where you're willing to place your brand, because while the media is diversifying their strategies for growth and sustainability of their businesses, that means you also need to be doing the same thing. So we explain that all to our brands, and a lot of them, because we do work with so many digitally native brands, founders are a little bit more savvy and really understand that diversity. But I think for those who are coming maybe from more traditional backgrounds and have seen this particular playbook used over and over again, it's really important that the first step in it is being open and willing to do this kind of diversified play, because that's the only way truly that you're going to grow and scale your business, using PR as a tool for that. And we've proven time and again that you actually can do that. PR will affect sales, it will drive traffic, it will help you with your bottom line if it's done in a way that is truly diversified.
So you mentioned there was a story about a home item that went into what I would call a non-endemic, media. It was a bookshelf. It's a client of yours. Will you tell how that worked. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah,
it wasn't Elle Decor that you placed it in.
100%. That's another thing, is getting outside of your endemic media. Yes, you need the authority with an apartment therapy placement or a Domino placement. You still need those things, or Elle Decor, whomever, because it's important when you're in this business, but you also need to realize your shopper is doing other things.
Yep.
He or she is traveling, they care about wellness. How do you find a way to get your story there is the most important thing, and we've seen it time and again where those non-endemic outlets have driven the most traffic, the most sales, and have helped brands sell out of product on a particular launch day. And that was the example I was giving to Sophie earlier, is that we placed a story about a new bookshelf launching, and I think it was probably in a kind of general interest outlet. It had nothing to do with the amazing design.
What was the brand?
Sorry?
What was the brand?
They're actually here. It's Floyd.
Great. Sorry, blowing up your spot, Floyd. It was Floyd, and it was in Fast Company, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
digitally, though.
Fast Company Online is one of the biggest drivers of traffic for any of our brands. It does not matter what market it's in. And that's because Fast Company has found a way to appeal to the modern and average consumer while also maintaining their authority as a business outlet that is pretty rigorous in their reporting. So that's something we learned 5 years ago when we were starting JBC, and realized, wow, we just got a report once from a brand saying, show us where all your traffic's coming from and all of your sales, and seeing the diversity of the outlets, and they're like, we don't even know, that story happened like 3 years ago and it's still generating,
Yep.
So those learnings and data and following where your customer is really, really important. You can't use the same playbook over and over again.
I hate that. Why? I'm looking for sheets, and I'm sure you've had this experience. If you search for it, you end up on Business Insider. Now, what did they know about sheets?
Wait,
I like Fast Company, by the way. They're awesome. But I feel like, as a publisher or a digital media site,
I
these
hope that
business
Business
sites
Insider
have
Home Reporter is here, and it's all going to pay off. This is all going to come full circle next.
Everyone's jumped in, and they have an opinion on our category.
No, it's true. I mean, here's a good example. Wirecutter, right?
Yeah.
Here's a very clever way for the very above board, very ethical, lauded New York Times to move over product recommendations to a separate brand name where you shop through, they get the affiliate money, and they don't feel like it's dirty money because it's not on the New York Times. Listen, Wirecutter is cool. They have good recommendations. They do solid reporting, but that is affiliate marketing at work for a major media brand that is ashamed to have it live within their house. I mean, that
was
is
also acquired. So
and it was
wasn't a
acquired,
brand
correct,
that
right.
was
Wirecutter
actually-
was its own
Yes.
cool thing.
It was authentic in its
smart
origination.
acquisition.
Right.
And it also is just diversifying their revenue stream. I mean, that's, to me, is interesting.
I think something to
Affiliate
point
marketing. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to point out, though, that it's also about who the shopper is. So we're talking about, you were Googling something and you found sheets written by Business Insider. I think that applies to a very large segment of the consumers out there. But there is a very self-selected, for us, it's people who care about their personal style and want to bring that home, is they're not going to go, and even if they do go to Google and they search it, or they go to Pinterest and search it, they're going to rely and click on the resource that actually they recognize, and that it is an editor that they follow, that they believe in their credibility, or it is about a designer that was covered. Like, those are things that matter, and I think that it's also about partnering, when we're talking about diversification for brands, is partnering with for us too, choosing the brands that are willing to go through that long investment about what stage are you in. You might be a cherished brand that's been around for 130 years, but are you telling a story that's changing? And if you are you willing to do things that are outside of your wheelhouse? And then we can also provide you with actual data to show you this is what happened after the course of our storytelling.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really important.
And I think we have to remember that and give consumers a little bit more credit. Because, to your point, if they trust in Domino, they're going to, no matter what, seek out what your content that you're pushing on, who you're endorsing, even if they did see a Business Insider story. And no shame to Business Insider at all. They drive a lot of sales for a lot of our clients. But so I think you have to trust in your customer and your consumer and your reader a little bit more, too, and understand that, they're trusting in the rigorousness that you apply to anything that you're covering, as long as you maintain that level at all times and are rightfully transparent in any affiliate partnerships you do. I think Business Insider does a great job of being very vocal about what Insider's picks is versus their other original and native reporting. So I think we also have to remember consumers are a lot more savvy today than they were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and I think are very aware of what is something that's potentially a revenue driver from that site versus what is truly a feature on a brand that a respected outlet had decided to cover.
I've got a quick thing for Tracy, one for Maxwell, and we're going to take quick questions, and then because we've got an entree coming up as well. So you refer to your reader as a consumer, which is something magazines and media brands go back and forth on. Domino has really found this amazing, I guess, revenue stream and opportunity, which is that your reader is so actively talking to you about what they're buying. You're seeing the click-throughs. I mean, this is where print media, started to drop off, right? Is that you're ultimately up against immediate actionable results. Something goes online, somebody clicks through, a company sees it, and they watch it happen. They watch, you get a story published, and maybe you see your Instagram following go. Tell me sort of, you had a shop. This is a continued thing, this consumer data, right?
So I think it came from many iterations, but we did a pop-up shop last winter with Amazon. And speaking of, the iterations around it, is we've done multiple pop-ups over the years. But the last one that we did was truly kind of this new contextual experience that I think we, as, enthusiasts of design, were like, this feels like something really new and something that feels right for this industry and category, because you're actually living in the environment. You go into a space, you can see how something like a throw hangs on a couch, and you can really feel it. Yep. And then the added element was that you can actually shop for everything using their technology, the Amazon Smile Code app. Now that's something that works because Amazon has such a huge user base already, so it's something easy. But something that they asked us to do was figure out, okay, what are other ways that people shop that we can include this type of technology on? And what was once, too ahead of its time is now coming back around, which is we included in the print magazine a completely shoppable through the QR code, an ability to see something and shop it immediately.
Scan it and shop it.
Scan it and shop it. I mean, and it really lent itself to this idea of neighboring against truly editorial, beautiful imagery with, a shoppable page that comes right after.
Right.
So I think that gave us lots of insight into, and we talked to a lot of the consumers who came by, and they love this idea of being able to shop for something contextually. It's reinforced in the print magazine that they're seeing. It's reinforced in the social posts that they're seeing and the Instagram post. Yep. So the conversions on this project was remarkable. Yeah. And so, we've now iterated that and figured out, okay, Amazon is a brand that is mass, right? It's for huge consumers, lots of scale, but this can work really in very curated and niche markets as well. And so we kind of added on a layer to a business model that is somewhat has been around as well, the staged home. Yeah. And making that something that now can also be technology enforced by including an app that everything is shoppable to home buyers. Mm-hmm. So I think we're really kind of, again, stepping back and looking at what are the actual consumers and the people who are, joining us at whether it's pop-ups or the experiences, asking them the questions of what do they like about that experience, and then using that to enforce and kind of educate what we do next.
Really quickly, Maxwell, I wouldn't want to end without saying that you, having seen this landscape and looking at this, it's really about knowing your specialty. And I think Tracy paid a high compliment to say that a lot of Domino readers wouldn't have landed on Domino knowing that they're a passionate lover of personal style without learning how to do it on your site. And I include myself as one of them, and I know they're out there in the audience too. You mentioned the idea that we've tried all these different things, but the internet is a forum, ultimately, right? I mean, it wasn't maybe yours, maybe an index or a library you had this idea of, and that you're talking about maybe reprogramming some of your content to be a little bit more back and forth and less kind of shoved at the audience. Can you briefly, you can see the countdown clock.
So given the landscape I described, it's hard to know where the easy place to go is. There's a lot of pressure. The early days of huge growth and people just flocking to the web is I think not happening right now. So I think of our site as I will say, I think that all the people from the publishing industry who went to the web rebuilt the same thing all over again. You all just built pages and pages on the web and wrote stuff for people to read, and then, and by the way, those pages are not very valuable. They fade into the background, they become clutter, and you have to clean out your site and throw them away. I don't think the web was designed to be a reproduction of a magazine or newspaper. I think what the web does is it's interactive. And when I hear people who say, and by the way, I'm saying this critically, but I don't think we do a great job yet ourselves, so it's a challenge. When people say, I read Apartment Therapy, I say, that's great. When they say, I used Apartment Therapy, I'm excited.
Yeah.
And I think if I were to look to the future, I look at, frankly, at sites that are already out there, like Pinterest or Houzz, or even Etsy, where they're platforms for the information and people use them. I think that we have to realize that the web can do a lot more than publish pages and serve ads. And I always say to my editors, the bad thing is, or the good thing is that when you write great stuff and we publish it in all the different ways, readership goes up. The bad thing is when you go to sleep, it goes down. So with all of that great content, how can we make it findable? And when I look at sites that have really turned more from publishing to platform to becoming, as I say, don't think about giving a lecture, think about building the classroom. And where the library is and where the things are, so that when people walk in, they start to just make it their own. I think that's where the real payoff is. It's not easy, and that's where we're aiming to go. So it means we have to publish, but then structure all of that good content so people can find it, and not just on Google, but on our site through many, many different ways.
Awesome, thank you. Adam Sandow's closing out our afternoon, and I'm going to thank all my guests, Melissa, Maxwell, and Tracy, and thank you for staying for this. Thank you.